You have spent the last 3 years building an unprecedented sanctions regime against Russia, really, and you have promised time and time again to make Russia pay for its action. But now the United States is asking Europe to leave sanctions as part of the peace agreement. In fact, the US is saying that Europe will be invited to the table only when it comes to sanctions relief. Are you willing to do that just because the White House tells you so? What demands are you going to in Kremlin to? And just President Zelensky, do you think Russia deserves any sort of relief after the untold devastation it has brought upon your country? Thank you so much.
So what the sanctions questions is concerned, what we see is that sanctions already a effect on the Russian economy. Skyrocketing inflation, there is spiraling interest rates, so the effect is visible. Companies are leaving Russia. You see they are really sanctions and sanctions. These sanctions are part of our approach that we want peace through strength. And it's very clear that unless Russia demonstrates by facts the true willingness to achieve lasting and peace agreement, we will increase punitive sanctions. So the condition is first we have to see that there's action on the side of Russia towards a just and lasting peace agreement. Presently, there is no lasting peace agreement, so it's much too early to speak about potentially maintaining, increasing or lifting sanctions. This discussion can only be led after we've seen concrete steps on the Russian side.
Thank you very much. You know, we are, and also today we need just and lasting peace. And when we speak about the just, and this war, it's difficult to find just in this war because of Russia. Their war, this war, how many people they killed, just killed, and thousands in the prison, and stolen children. And that's why we'll never forget it, and we can't forget it. Even if I hope that partners on this page with us, not only hope I see it, but we'll never forget it, and we will really do everything that people who began this war, who unprovoked war, all this and of course we will work on tribunal even after the hard part of this war. Even when we will go to the diplomacy, we'll never forget these people.
Let's now go to La Stampa with us. Yeah, I see you. Go on.
Thank you very much. Marco Bresolin, Italian newspaper La Stampa. I have a question for the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa. You represent 27 states. You said that you want to be at the table. These talks would start. You also said that maybe you are going to find someone who will represent the EU. But here there are many other of other European EU countries. Some others intervene by video. Do you think that this seat should belong to the EU, or are you ready to share a common seat with other European leaders in order to bring a position peace talk negotiation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, only Ukraine can decide when there are conditions to start effective, credible, and peace negotiations. All of us welcome the huge efforts from President Trump to push Putin and Russia to negotiation, and I wish that these bilateral talks open the door to peace negotiation. Ukraine can, when we have conditions to do this. But this war is not only about Ukraine, it's also about European security. And for this, it is essential that Europe, as in the and participate, not only the European Union, also our friends like Norway, Iceland, United Kingdom, because all of them are very engaged in the support of Ukraine and European security. I believe if we reach to have a joint special envoy representing not only the European Union but also the other European countries, we strengthen our European position, and we will discuss this next European Council on 6th of March. Yesterday invited the leaders to participate, and this special European Council is about how to strengthen our capacity to invest more, better, faster and stronger in our own capability, how to strengthen the capacity, but also to how we can be prepared for participate actively in the future peace negotiations if and when they arrive.
On to Danish media, Kimmer from there. Yeah.
Yes. My question is to the Danish Prime Minister. Today you presented this willingness to support the Scandinavian and the Baltic countries to support a newly established brigade, Ukrainian brigade. But where on the question ground in a potential European peacekeeping mission?
Thank you for that question. Well, from a Danish perspective, we are open-minded, and as I have said from the beginning of this war, we will our friends as long and to the end. I think for now, the most important thing is to ensure that Ukraine will get what they need on the ground. And therefore, I urge everyone to contribute more donations, weapons, things we have for 7 months and years now. I think that's the most important thing. And of course, a lot of questions has to be answered before we can take a concrete solution when it comes to boots on the ground. And as Costa just said, this war is and it's about European security. And therefore, we need to look at the entire eastern flank when it comes to deterrence and defense. But we are open-minded.
Thank you. Delphi Media, Herman Kelomis. Delphi, yeah.
Hello, Herman Kelomis from Estonia. In my country, it is a day meaning. We have our Day. So my question is to President Zelensky and Prime Minister Michal. Should there be an unjust peace in Ukraine? Do you think Estonia's independence could be threatened, and how soon?
It's your birthday, you start. Yeah, it's Estonia's birthday today, 107. The short answer probably would be that all of EU and NATO are under threat if Russia's goal objective will not be changed. Probably Estonia knows its neighbor well, as everybody does. We have invested in defense for many years, and we will. Our aim is to go to 5% of GDP next year, probably more already. And know that independence is valuable. That's why I'm here, not in Estonia celebrating Estonia's birthday, to support Ukraine, because we have the common enemy and common fight. Ukraine is fighting the fight also for Europe and Nordics and Baltics, everybody. So to answer the unjust peace, probably everybody. States, because Iran, North Korea, everybody would assess that they can do whatever they want. So everybody in this probably are together. And to EU and everybody, that if you come to bear arms in Russia right now, then right now, there are more than it was before the war. What will they do? Will they become physical education teachers? Probably not. They will find new jobs. So this is a threat all over the world. Before the war, progress, whatever, but right now it's somewhat. European Union, NATO, everybody in civilized and democratic world are under the threat until Russia is forced to change its goals. Thank you.
Again, to you, your people, today you are here in such a special day. Thank you so much, and my congratulations, and God bless. You'll never have a war. And what is very important, I think in risk, your question, yes, the countries we before 1990, 1991, which have been under Russian influence. Yeah, so I think Russia, first of all, wants to have their influence continued and be on these interests of on these independent countries, which been before, during Soviet period, being the republics of Soviet Union, and of course it's Ukraine and Moldova, and of course Estonia, Latvia, of course, where it was very strong during the 20th centuries. It's Poland, it's Slovak, and other countries. So the most dangerous moment when you have people who have Russian roots, it's bad. I'm just, how it was with Crimea, I'm just sharing with you our experience. When you have some society, and of course if you are bordering with Russia, you have such society. I mean, this other, with other nations. So when you Russian-speaking people, or their roots, or their families, which half of Estonian, half Russian, like we had Ukrainian, father Ukrainian, and Russian mother, it can be so. It's our history. I mean, in risk. Because with it was the East, with Donbass at the very beginning, they said that they are not occupying our territories, that they defend Russian-speaking people. That's why I think that Estonian people have the, if we will, Ukraine, all countries who I mentioned, I think have this risk because of Russian policy, because their view of the world, Russian world.
Thank you, Mr. President. And we now go to Iceland. Erlendsdottir from Iceland Nation.
Question for the Prime Minister of Iceland, Kristrún Frostadóttir. Your government has decided to increase funding to help Ukraine. On what projects will that be spent?
So this, we're obviously very much aware of our geographical situation in the world. And even though we might be a small country, we think it's very important that we show through direct action that we're stepping up. We are a country without a, but we are a country that has high welfare because we have security. And I think there's increased understanding that defense for peace in Europe is extremely important. So we're making this step of doubling our contributions for Ukraine, and it is that we actually use these funds to go through the Danish initiative, which we know has been very effective, both financially and for the Ukraine, but also through our demining efforts that we've worked on with Lithuania. So that will be our purpose. Then we are also supporters of the brigade. We don't have arms or a military, but we will be financially supporting that. So this is an important step for Iceland to take. And like I said before, important to show solidarity with Ukraine.
Thank you, Excellency. Marie from Radio Canada.
Hi, good afternoon. If you'll indulge me 1 second, je vais commencer en français. Monsieur le Premier ministre, avec vous, vous avez parlé plus tôt ce matin de la volonté du Canada de collaborer avec les partenaires européens. La paix sera atteinte. Est-ce que pour vous, I'll translate very quickly. You mean this morning that Canada was willing to send boots on the ground should there be peace to cooperate with European allies to guarantee Ukraine's security? And if I may, a question for both of you, President Zelensky and Prime Minister Trudeau. How significant an investment is it North American ally stable now, given the fact in the past month, both of you have had conversations that sounded like they came from an adversary with the United States and its president, Donald Trump. What's the significance of Canada's presence here today?
First, Canada has been in Ukraine one, indeed from before day one, as in 2015 we started training Ukrainian military forces on the ground in Ukraine, which was in part Western training. Ukrainian is one of the why Ukraine has been able to stand up to the Russian invaders so effectively over the past years. It's not just Canada, a number of countries have been involved, but for historical reasons, Canada's second largest diaspora in the world means we felt connected to Ukraine, but we also believe deeply that it's not just about Ukraine. It's about the rules and the values and the principles of independence and integrity that protect every country in the world. All of us rely on those rules to be able to build peace and security. And we know that with the world changing, we're all going to have to do more around peace and security. One of the key themes heard today as from partners around the world in NATO and elsewhere over the past number of years is people are going to be doing more on defense. 9.5 years ago when I took office in Canada, the previous government had us down below 1% of defense spending. So the a year or two before. In the subsequent time, we have more than tripled defense spending on the path to 2030, and we're on our way to 2%. And we know we're going to have to continue to do more and more in an uncertain world. We'll be there. As to how we work with our, but on the table, because we need to make sure that might no longer makes right in this world. That's what has led to 80 years of incredible stability and prosperity, not just around the world, of the institutions out of World War II. And standing up for those institutions is in the best interest of every single one of us. Now, as a collection of different nations, we will have different perspectives from time to time forward, and we'll be working in this at the G7 forum or elsewhere. But we are united in our values. We are united in wanting to see peace and fairness and prosperity for all our citizens, and that's what continues to drive us forward. Le Canada va toujours être là pour l'Ukraine. On est là depuis les débuts. Continuer de l'être. Regardons on peut mieux aider parce que c'est pas juste défendre l'Ukraine, c'est défendre les principes et les valeurs qui nous protègent tous.
Merci à vous. Víctor Guerrero, Televisión Española. Sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
really, was
That's okay. He can tell us how.
I really appreciate that we have such relations with you, Justin, and you helped a lot, and a lot of your people helped us at the very beginning of war. We never shared, by the way, that we've been in touch. beginning with drones, and when we began to produce drones, and even when we bought drones with some partners, they didn't have Canadian high-level optic technologies, and Canada helped us with this, and we spoke a lot the front with this and etc. It was really first weeks and first months of the first year of war. Then, Justin, absolutely part of our prepared but what is very important, and it was very important again the first year, because they've been well trained. For today, the situation changed. After that, after Canada, we had such missions in Europe, and then the experience of this war gave us new knowledge of the war, and of course today when we trained abroad, we have to come back and train again on the battle. It's technology. We help packages, military packages. So thank you so much, and I think that's all. Yes.
Well, with regards to Donald Trump and having a North American partner here,
with Donald Trump, this is question. With Donald Trump, now we had a conversation. It was very good conversation, G7 conversation with the leading role of Canada. Yes, thank you very much. Everybody it and continue like all the partners. All the partners do it, and we need also not to lose this unity between Europe and United States. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we can proceed to Victor, finally to you.
For President Zelensky. First in Spanish, then I will translate in English. Señor Presidente, usted esta mañana decía que España va a apoyar a Ucrania el tiempo que haga falta y con mayor determinación. ¿Podría Prime Minister, you said this morning that Spain would be supporting Ukraine as long as it takes and with more determination. Is the Spanish government considered to send Ukraine? And for President Zelensky, are you asking your partners here present for soldiers, for a peacekeeping force as a peace guarantee? Soldiers
Well, thank you, Victor, for your question. I would say, because this is not the first time that I have to answer to this question, and I guess all the rest of colleagues, but I would say that first things first, and step by step. No, I think which a genuine peace negotiations talks. And for that is crucial, I would say critical, that Ukraine and of course Europe headed. So critical for us to provide the security guarantees to Ukraine in order to reach that common goal that we have, which is to have a last and for you. I think these are now the questions that we have to answer, and we welcome, of course, this window of opportunity that now we have. I said before, to have the European Union and, of course, Ukraine
implicated in these very important talks. And as I said during this morning, of course, in 2024, bilateral security that the next 10 years. Last year, we provide 1 billion euros in order to provide military capabilities to Ukraine. This is something that we are going to repeat in the year 2025, and of course, with
Thank you so much. We're very thankful to you, Pedro, your country, your team, and your people. We had moments, winters, black, and etc. Now we're sitting in the middle of the winter. We have light, we have connection, we have internet, we have possibility to speak, and each other. Very good. And this is the big work of a lot of partners. For example, I don't know if I can share when I came to Spain in a very difficult moment, again in winter. If I don't know. Yeah, 6. It was decision I needed very much because we knew that they will attack very specific infrastructure of energy. I had items and through the world, and immediately Pedro gave me 6 hawks, and it helped. So thank you so much. And such things, this is illustrated. Again, that we can count on each other, and we're thankful. And I'm very thankful, like president of our nation, to all your nations. And this is very important. I think the same thing we will discuss. Now it's not for public because we didn't make decisions and infrastructure. We are, you say, or like the journalist said, so we will discuss this infrastructure. The number, so of course I know the number what we need, and of course we will share open for this. So when we will make decision of what we see, how we see the number, and if it will be positive, we will share it. Of course we will share. It's not a secret. It can't be societies.
Now to Swedish. Yeah, we have Swedish media with us. Okay, they probably left. Have not waited until now, yes? Okay, let's go now to Norway then, another Nordic nation. Marius Helge Larsen.
Hi, I'm the Norwegian CNTB. I have a question for President Zelensky or anyone else who would like to answer it. You have now been through...
Can you ask Sweden, please, because they don't have journalists.
President
Prime Minister. So, but it goes to you first, President Zelensky. You have been through 3 terrible years of war. What are your hopes for the next?
We hope that we can finish this war this year, not in 3 years. It's very, very difficult. Where to go through to our. So I can't speak about 3 years. If we speak about how to prepare security because of the Russia, they can come back in 10 years. they will pressure to their territory. And if Ukraine will be in EU and in NATO in closest years, of course it will help us very much. And I think that they will not come. Will never, forgive the world that they didn't win. And you see that they will not win.
You haven't? If not, we will. No? I think everything was so clear. Okay, yes.
I have a question for my Prime Minister as well, Jonas Gahr Støre. Today, your colleague Mette Frederiksen in Denmark said that to enough reach within 2036. Do you think that is a fast enough pace?
Well, I think we have made that significant shift of lifting us far above that did not. Then we to 2.5, and we may reach 3% before 2036, by the way. I think we may need to invest more in defense, and I think that debate should be on figures, but also because if we analyze and percentages, what we need to do now is to deliver on what we have agreed at NATO in Vilnius and in Washington about regional plans. So we work now with Sweden and Finland in the north. And our Danish friends and our German friends and our British friends that around the North Sea, we should also have investment in the best capabilities. That may also lift percentage, but I would really like to see as the most.
Thanks.
To finish, we have with us Jonas Immonen from Ilta-Sanomat, right? Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Jonas Immonen from Ilta-Sanomat, Finland. Question for President Zelensky. And saying US in support of Ukraine and also defense of Europe as a whole. Mr. Stubb, what do you think that's going to be Finnish role and responsibility for future for European defense? And Mr. do you think or believe that will and should be US support if needed?
Sure. Perhaps I'll answer through 2 points. I'll answer the question to Vladimir first. I think we need to get our facts right. When you look at support for Ukraine, Europe stands, Commission President Ursula said earlier, at about 134 billion euros, more or less. The United States, roughly around 114 billion. I look around this table and I see NBA, so 5 Nordic countries and 3 Baltic states. 26 billion, roughly speaking. So that's about a fifth of what Europe has supported. So yes, to a certain extent in the future, we're going to have to take more responsibility, but to get bogged down in who has given more, I think is the wrong tack. It's not only about the material support, it's also about having some kind of a plan. I think Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre put it quite well earlier when he said that we Europeans can't complain our way to the negotiating table. The past 2 weeks, when we transatlantic partnership, an avid transatlanticist, we have to wake up to a new reality. And then the question is, how do we get skin in the game? How do we get involved? I think a good start is what President Costa has done, is to call a council, because right now, diplomacy is rather cacophonic. That's why I have, together with some colleagues, proposed that we sit down and think about a plan. And in my mind, that plan or sketch goes in 3 phases. It's the pre-negotiation. That's right now. This is when we hard how we put more pressure on Russia and basically how we support Vladimir and Ukraine and what kind of security arrangements we have. And if I may, just as a side note, I'm getting a little bit frustrated about this debate on boots on the ground. It sort of misses the whole point that the strongest boots in the world right now are with Ukraine. They have the land forces. Then it's a question about which phase and how Europe will come to support Ukraine in the air, in the sea, with reconnaissance, etc., etc. The phase of the plan is when the ceasefire begins. And that's actually quite crucial, because that's when you start looking at the modalities and the agenda of the actual negotiations, and that's when you start looking at confidence-building measures. And then the third phase is the peace process, talking about the big issues, territory, and basically about recompensation, about justice, which President Zelensky was talking about earlier. So what I'm trying to say is that I think we in Europe, we need to get our act together. And in order to get an act together, you have to have a plan to the Americans, because if you have a plan to the Americans, the negotiations, and right negotiations are happening above our heads without any kind of a plan and strategy. That's why I think this meeting has been extremely important, and that's why I think that the next 2 weeks are crucial also about the future of European security.
And
just to add some words, I think that story that I'm telling, but I think that you are neighboring the same problem. Yes, and that's great. So that's big success that you are in NATO. And congratulations to Sweden also, and that's why I'm thankful that we have such close partnership with Finland, with Alexander, and of course you gave us a lot of packages during this war, and it was very important, useful. I can tell you, especially the first year, I'm focusing a lot here, but I think that the first months was the most important in this battle. And when those time we didn't have 155 artillery, I mean Western kind of NATO standard artillery, we didn't have weapon and etc. We had Ukrainian production, Soviet period production, any weapon, artillery, and etc. And their air defense, S-300, for example, missiles. And it was very difficult. It was big deficit because it's big deficit in the world, and helped us because really we found only some countries who had it in their storages. Yeah, so it was very important, especially those months, those first weeks and months. And about your neighbor, and I think, and of course, Ukraine will do this, and I think those experience of such enemies or such problematic neighboring, how to save the border, and you have very long border with Russia, and that's why I think our experience of how to defend the contact, defend the front line, technologies, how to defend. I think this experience, our experience, will be very useful for your country. It doesn't mean that you will have a war, but it's more safety. I think so.
Thank you. I was told we have another question to Prime Minister Kristersson from Ukraine. The floor is yours.
Tatiana Pasova, Ukrinform, a question to the Prime Minister of Sweden and the President of Ukraine. Could you please tell us right now?
I can put my question in English, actually. Today, President said that the initiative for Ukraine for Ukraine to become a member of EU by 1st of January of 2030. And do you support such initiative? Because we need a coalition of leaders who will support our way forward. And
Question to President Zelensky. Could you please tell us whether we are ready to speed up the reforms for Euro integration and Euro accession?
Was that for me? Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, obviously, we have a race of merit, and since there are a lot of merits, there is a good reason for speediness in the process. So that's very easy, and I really wouldn't mind to have a very specific date. I think there is an urgency in becoming a European Union member, and even more so if there is put at whether Ukraine NATO for every. So I think the European Union accession is a urgent need.
I think so that how to open clusters quickly to EU have to do for this. I think the answers can give you really the President Ursula von der Leyen. She knows when she and President Costa, I think they know when we will be in EU. Really? They're decision makers. So.
Yeah, perhaps I may add, I am now witnessing many different accession processes. I must say, I'm so deeply impressed by the speed and the quality with which this country, Ukraine, is refining necessary steps, and these are, and this is a lot of hard work. Fighting a war of survival is really impressive. So you have here an example for highest merit, highest quality, and speedy delivery that is exemplary.
You got 3 Latvia. Latvian media against Amor.
Thanks. Hello? Works well. So the Nordic and the Baltic states, my question would be to President of Latvia, President Rinke, and maybe a short comment from President Zelensky, if possible, about the Nordics and Baltics announced today, you know, the pledge to train and also to equip a brigade-sized unit. Given the uncertain situation right now in geopolitics, and the Finnish colleague here, you see that Europe rapidly increase its military aid to Ukraine, and is Europe capable of doing that? Thank you.
Actually, those are very easy questions. Yes and yes. But need is to first of all get a very clear message to the defense industry that we are going to spend more, because what defense industry needs a clear commitment. Number two, both on the national level, less at the European level, we still are experiencing all the procedures. Sorry to say, but out of this kind of mood that we are very much process-oriented, but to move to the results-oriented. I do believe that we can do that, and I do believe that we must do that, and I do believe that we will do that.
Okay, let's go now to...
I think so that all defense or military industries of European countries began to increase the production because of this war. Began to increase the production, beginning from the artillery rounds to drone production, technologies of electronic warfare, a lot of things. But how to do, but it's not enough, and how to increase more quicker and be comparable with Russians is to invest more to Ukrainian production, because our military economy to just produce. For example, 200 private companies. 200, it's a lot. Even small companies, they need financing and they produce quicker than our government production. It's understandable because without any bureaucracy, they just produce soldiers and directly to the front line. What is important, they don't produce and just to give government and then government think how to send it to the front line. So there are a lot of quick ways. For example, we did one thing. So I began to money directly to how to help them to produce quickly. And they really do a lot of things. And they buy and produce. There are brigades on the front line which produce at the same time. So really very using not correct word, but it's incredible. So that's why we need additional financing for our Ukrainian production directly to private sector.
Now to Lithuanian media, LRT, Augustinas. Yeah.
Opportunity. Question for Lithuanian president. I also would like to ask you about, peacekeeping force possibilities in Ukraine. We see that it's hardly likely that anytime soon we can see this coming from EU or NATO frame. Are you willing to take a unilateral decision, like, for example, United Kingdom? And also I want to ask President Zelensky today around this table, do you think that this Nordic-Baltic region is playing more and more significant role in support for Ukraine? Thanks.
Lithuania is ready and will be ready to support Ukraine under any circumstance. And even now, Lithuanian people, ordinary Lithuanian people, are accumulating financial resources in order to buy the drones for Ukraine. So my country is not tired and will be not tired to Ukraine. When it comes to that, I think we have to answer to the three questions, first of all. We need the clarity about the mandate of such forces on the soil of Ukraine. Are we speaking of peacekeeping or peace enforcement? And even the ceasefire is not a reality, unfortunately, so far. The second question, and the answer to the second question is, are we ready to enforce the ceasefire? It must be real. The first time it's violated or ceasefire is violated, the retaliation must be immediate and strong. Otherwise, we compromise and we discredit the very concept of this peace. And are we ready to back each other? Or, in other words, unity is vital. Europeans with the backing of the United States would be ideal solution. Are we there? I have my doubts. My doubts will disappear in weeks or coming months. At least I am looking forward to the Hague summit. I hope there will be positive news from this summit, despite all our reservations. So I think the question is mature, but when it comes to training mission, Lithuania is already there. Our experts, military experts, assist Ukrainians to improve their professionalism and fighting capacities. They are there. Already answered to this question. And if you allow me my initiative on the date of European Union accession, Ukraine's accession into European Union. This is a matter of political commitment. If we talk about the NATO membership, of course we understand that. Nothing is in our hands, in the hands of European Commission, in the hands of member state, and of course the hands of Ukraine. And Ukraine is doing really a great job under such complex. So I truly, it is realistic date, but realistic date. Thank you.
One more important partner with us, France, Monsieur le Ministre Benjamin Haddad, Minister Delegate for Europe and Special Envoy of the President. I'm told we have a question for you coming from Union Sayenko.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. I would my question to French Minister. France has already provided Ukraine with very significant support in order to help to survive our country. Especially, you provided us Scalp long-range missiles, howitzers, armored ammunition, and other. My question is your country ready to continue support Ukraine for another year? Are you ready to increase this level of support? And my quick follow-up for the President of European Commission and President of European Council. You have a proposal from Lithuania that be setting a date for Ukrainian accession by the 1st January of 2030. Is this a goal of your mandate to coordinate and help Ukraine really become a member of European Union by this date, 1st of January 2030?
Yes, France will continue to support Ukraine for how long it takes, for the simple reason that Ukrainians are not just fighting for their security and their freedom, but for the security of Europeans against the threat that Russia poses for all of us. Enough to mention long-range Caesar cannons. We have Mirage jets now flying in the skies of Ukraine, as well as the Anne of Kiev brigade that's been deployed on the ground, and we will continue to do so. President Macron, as you know, is today in Washington, D.C. to continue the respectful and honest President Trump. Very simply, we support the peace through strength approach. And for this to succeed, we need to continue to support Ukraine on the ground. We need to increase pressure on Russia, and this is why we welcome the adoption of the 16th round of sanctions today on Russia. Ukrainians need to be around the table discussed, Europeans around the table, and that there can be no just and lasting peace without robust security guarantees in the long run. And this is where also Europeans will have to step up and take their responsibility, and France is ready in this respect to take its responsibility alongside Ukraine, the security of all of us.
So to your question concerning the initiative of President Gitanas Nausėda, I think it's a very noble initiative because it shows a lot of political will and an amazing support to Ukraine, and thank you very much for that. The process of accession, we always repeat, is merits-based. Basically, it says there are certain conditions and reforms that you have to do, and you have to implement them so that the conditions are right for an accession and for the European Union, for the accessing countries. So it's always necessary. What I want to emphasize is that if you would just only set a date, then it would also mean the other candidate countries would ask immediately for a date and not a process. But again, I really appreciate that is there. I would even say Ukraine, merits-based process, if they continue at that speed and at that quality, perhaps they could be earlier than 2030. So thank you very much for giving the impulse, and let's work hard on all sides really to keep the
time, but we have one more question. President Zelensky.
Sorry, if you allow me.
I'm sorry, President.
For sure, Ukraine's accession to the European Union will be the most important security guarantee for the future of Ukraine. We have already decided that this new institutional cycle will be the institutional cycle of enlargement to Ukraine, to Moldova, to Western Balkans, and we don't know with is a merit, and we are from the European Commission to the different candidate states. And it's very impressive what Ukraine is making. Because in fact, Ukraine are writing a book how to make reforms at war times. And this is very difficult to imagine. But we are very committed, and I'm sure that the different member states, the European Commission, and Ukraine, the Western Balkan countries, are working very hard to on this enlargement. And we need also to work among us to make the necessary reforms to welcome, well, these new member states.
While I was coming here, I met just in the street a Ukrainian friend who told me to say thank you for the €1 billion you announced today. And when I said goodbye to him, a question came to my mind, like, how will you explain citizen, another Ukrainian citizen, to the Spanish taxpayers? Spain, still this year, last year, 2022, is paying more, 2 times, is paying €2 billion to Russia buying liquefied gas, and today we are only announced one to Ukraine. So I would like to ask you, what will you tell to him, to Spanish taxpayers, because this money is still helping to fund the war. And to President Zelensky, I would like to ask that you said partners is very important to know how do you feel with partners that still pays money, a lot of money, more money than they give to you, to the enemy, or partially at least. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the questions. First of all, Spain has supported all the sanctions packages, the Council. And we've been very constructive and positive in order to increase the pressure on Russian shoulders in order to stop the war. Second, you're talking about private contracts, but the political will, I would say, the Spanish is to reduce and diversify our energy dependencies towards other countries, and we have done so. We have done so. Our main provider is now in North America, not but also Canada. At least, I would, that we have committed ourselves as the Spanish government to devote €1 billion for the next 10 years, each year, in order to provide that military capability to Ukraine. So, supporting Ukraine, we are supporting Zelensky and his government, and I do believe that even if we're far away from the front line, because we are coming from the Iberian Peninsula, we have also a good representation of the Council, Antonio Costa and myself. I think that people in our society understand quite well the importance of defending and providing this support to Ukraine and its people in order to guarantee that peace in Ukraine and in Europe. By the way, you know, when it comes to enlargement, since we come from a country which became a member state of the European Union back in the 80s of the 20th century, we're always open and very constructive of the enlargement of Ukraine, Moldova, and Western Balkans. So, you know, I think that, and this is not because it's the political will of the government, it's the political will of the Spanish society, which really feels before, you know, with some problems. Nowadays, when other countries such as Ukraine need that solidarity. And I'm also very happy that we agreed with President Zelensky to open a Ukrainian hub in Spain, since we are the fourth country in the European Union receiving Ukrainian refugees in our country, to provide that services not only from the Spanish government but also from the Ukrainian government.
Okay, and one last one to wrap up. Media to Ukrainian president. Прошу, слово вам.
Mr. President, you've mentioned several times that Russia is not intending to have a peace, and in confirmation to that, we have a situation when the United World is gathering here to talk about peace, agreements to needed in the name of Lavrov. They're saying that we don't have anything against Europe to join negotiations, but we'll still, it doesn't mean that we'll stop any fires. And you mentioned that you would like we would have end of this year. Due to this position of Russians, how credible do you think that we might have the peace till the end of the year? And we heard a lot of these phrases about concessions. What is the border in concessions and enforced peace that could be one, as was mentioned by your counterpart from the Czech Republic? Well, this is not the first ultimatum by the Russian Federation. And frankly speaking, we can hear the same statements every week to reinforce our to augment the understanding what could be done in Europe, to increase the production, to reinforce the capabilities of our armed forces, to negotiate with partners, definitely without Russia, talk about the security. You need to be ready, and at the same time you would need to do everything for this diplomatic track that is mentioned around Europe and by the United States, for that to be able to see some possibilities without the violation of the constitution of our country, without the violation of the interests of Ukrainians and the people of Europe. A lot could be mentioned about that. So no matter the ultimatums that we'll have from the, let us do our own, let us, and as long as we're strong partners, we're not alone in face of Russia, I think we'll manage everything.
Thank you so much.